can hear from you. There has been some damages that's been reported with the way that the couriers have been handling this with, I don't know whether it's the forklifts or whatever it is that they have. Um, what is your feedback to any collector that receives a damaged item with either damages inside or damages on the packaging and so on?
Let's sort of separate the two issues. So first off, no matter what we do, there's going to be some that arrive damaged. It's inevitable that something is in somewhere is going to be wrong. We always have damage replacement stuff on hand. So we factor in a certain percentage. We usually factor somewhere between 2 and 3% for damage replacement. It might even be a lost package that we have to replace. So anything plastic that's broken, that's the super easy part. Like I saw somebody's LED lights on work, and we have a Google sheet that I look at that talks about the things. Broken turret. There's a guy that got his where like one of the whole like flat planes of it was smashed, which was insane. All the plastic stuff, if you will, all that stuff to replace is very easy. And we've built in extras to have for that because something somewhere is going to go wrong. There's always going to be a percentage that goes wrong. The more tricky issue is really the box. Because obviously when we handed those things off to our courier, those boxes aren't damaged. Those boxes get damaged in transit. So first off, let me, because we're going to break this into three parts. The first is anybody that's got a plastic problem, no problem. We're going to replace it. We always replace it. If you have a problem with a broken figure, we replace it. Anytime we make anything, we will replace it. The plastic is fine. As collectors, the packaging is important. So we got to talk about the boxes. So first off, if we're really talking about the boxes, I've got to quantify how big the issue is. So a lot of the stuff that we see online where it gets a very dramatic response, there's a giant hole in the box, right? A giant hole in the box is not somebody handling the box wrong. That's a forklift or, it fell off a truck and landed on, I don't know, somebody's Stairmaster. It's something went terribly wrong if it's got a hole that's 12 inches wide in the box. And that's clearly, I don't want to say not on us, but it's not on us, but we still need to resolve it. But we've also be able to go to like, okay, how many problems do we have with the handling at the courier level? So then we got to quantify that and then talk to the courier about how we're going to resolve that. I would say though, of what I have seen and what's in our list and queue, the vast majority, 75% of the problems are all box condition issues, not plastic condition issues. And we're still running somewhere between, from what has been shipped and what's been arrived, we're running higher than normal, but somewhere between 1 to 2% of items having damage when they arrive. So that means 98 to 99% of them are showing up fine. But you see they're dramatic damaged ones. And of that, the vast majority of those damages are the inner boxes, the display box, not the shipping box. The shipping box is the shipping box. We're not going to talk about the shipping box. So the question that normally follows this is, why didn't we pack it differently? Why didn't it have like the foam corners? The issue with this box is when you get yours, Eggman, you'll understand. When you get that box, like I could go get one, the cubic volume of that box, which means the length times the width times the height, the cubic space of that box so that we can hold the doors and the front of the playset in it, is in the totality of the cubic space, only an inch or two across the entirety of it, short inside the allowable shippable size. Obviously, you can ship anything of any size, but at a certain point, it moves over into industrial shipping. And that level of box, if we had put foam corners on all four corners, it would have kicked it up to a thing where we would have been like $400 something just to ship that one box. And that's with our rate. So we had to go no foam corners so that it could actually be shippable. That said, even if that bot, like one of the ones I was looking at today, where it's, it's got like a 12-inch gash that goes all the way through the box and into the playset. Like, even if I had put foam corners on that, that
It would have
box
still
still
gone
would have
through.
arrived. It would have gone through, it would have been annihilated. So what we're running into is, because the box is so formidable, and hopefully most people watching this has either seen it or gone someplace else. If you actually get to try to fit that box through your front door, which it barely fits, like, the box is so big and formidable that they are moving these things around by forklift, not by some dude just picking it up. And in doing so, we're running into a higher level of damage than we normally would get. So if you're talking about a box like the Thunder Tank, you can pick up that box and carry it around. It's big, it's heavy, but you can still pick it up and carry it around. The box for this thing, you can't
Doesn't fit in the
really.
boot.
It doesn't fit in your trunk by any means. It's so big that it's just, what we're running into is just the difficulty of shipping something this large. And it's not that the pieces couldn't be broken up, because quite frankly, that's why there's two boxes. The second box, I think you've probably seen these photos online. The second box is still just as big, if not even ever so slightly bigger than the Thunder Tank box, much
Yes.
less the original box. So what we're just running into is just sheerly that box moving through all the stations of, it's got to get brought to this warehouse, and it's got to get on this plane, then it's got to get on this thing to get to this warehouse, to get on a truck. At some point, somebody with a forklift is banging one of these things. But if we really talk about it, we're honest, and same thing, it's like, we're somewhere between 1% and 2%, even with all the box damages. But if you see 30 posts online about damaged boxes, you're like, this is the worst problem ever. And it's like, oh, actually, this is a very small problem. And then now we need to work with the courier to figure out what they're going to do to help us resolve it, and then what we can do with the customer to help resolve it. The hardest part of this is going to be, if you're like, no, I really want a perfect box, and we want to try to get you a perfect box. How do I get you
How do
another
you get
perfect
it
box
back?
without going through the same exact process we just went through?
Yes.
And can you imagine trying to ship that box flat?
Oh
I
gosh.
can
Okay.
guarantee you, if we ship that box flat, it'll get bent in half somewhere along the
Yes.
way.
Yes.
There's no way that thing's not arriving that. So that's not to say we're not going to solve it. I want you to have, you bought one and you want a nice box. All right, we're going to figure out how we solve it. The first thing we got to do is figure out how big the problem is, because we've still got another week or two of shipping these things out.
Yeah.
Okay, how many people have problems with shipping because of box damage? To wrap it up, we just have to sort of quantify how many boxes were damaged in shipping, talk to FedEx about what resolutions they're willing to offer, and then we can come back to people, talk about what they've got, and then what we can do to help them. Our goal is to get it there as safely as possible. And, like I said, in looking at it, it's like 98% of these things, if not more, are actually arriving fine. But just due to the sheer scale of it and the way they're moving it around, we're going to have some issues someplace. And I'm sorry it's your playset, because I know that you were excited about it and it showed up and you couldn't wait and you had to stay home from work to sign for it for FedEx, and then it showed up and it's got a giant hole in the side. There can be nothing more deflating and frustrating than that, especially if you waited a year and 3 months for this thing. But we'll sort it out. We'll get it straight. Like, we're not trying to screw you over, but we also need to quantify how many we need to solve.
At least, speaking with you about this, now my package is taking an extremely long route. I mean, it went from the factory to the US, and then from the US is going on a ship to the UK. From the UK, it's
It
got to
probably
get
didn't go to the US. Yours, because it came from the UK, went straight from the port in Hong Kong to UK.
Okay. So from there, it still has to get on a plane and then fly its way all the way to South Africa. And if there's anybody from South Africa watching this, they know how some of our courier services, they just don't care. So I sincerely hope that it arrives in perfect condition. But I'm also understandable that things like this happen, and I'm comfortable knowing that if there's any damage on the inside, I can just contact Super 7 or the person.
Yeah, if you got, and I want to make that clear, like for everybody, for every toy that we make, anything, like if you get a broken part or something that's not right, we'll replace it. Why wouldn't we? Like, of course we're going to replace it. So, yeah, I mean, what I'm seeing, the majority of the damages that I'm seeing are sort of forklift transit level damages, and they look dramatic. And those are the ones that, like in the photos, you're like, what the, like this thing showed up and it got annihilated. It's like, yes, it did. You know, and the law of averages, unfortunately, tell me that no matter what, there's going to be some that get damaged. That's why we make damage replacement stuff. That's why we have an extra percentage of things sitting in the warehouse that came in this exact same shipment. Well, they're not sitting yet. They'll be in the last container, because I can guarantee you there's also somebody whose package just doesn't show up. Like,
Yes.
or one half of it shows up. They're like, I got one box, but I didn't get the other box. And that's got to be terribly frustrating for that person. But unfortunately, there's going to be somebody that happens to, but I've got one over here to fix the problem. So
Yes.
I just want to be upfront about that no one's going to get screwed just because your box showed up and it was annihilated. You're not out of luck.
Excellent. So that's very important. If there's anything that's happening to your Cats Lair, contact Super 7. They're definitely going to help you.
Yeah, if you contact customer care at super7store.com, you will be, in this case like this with the Cats Lair, you will be put into literally a Google Sheet database of who it is, what their problem is, and what their order number was, address, everything else like that. And then as we finish it going through, then we'll sort of total it up. Like, okay, I'm making it up, like 12 people need replacement cannons, and 2 people need replacement floors, and 3 people have LEDs that aren't working. Okay, cool. All right, let's take care of everybody that needs this, everybody that needs this, everybody that needs this, everybody needs this. The plastic part's the easy part. Then it's the majority right now is, all right, now box damages. Now, what are we going to do about that? How many box damages do we have? What can we do about it? All those kind of things. So we just need to get sort of the whole data, and then we can sort it out.
Now,